Good evening. Welcome to the Toon review for tonight's show, which is the preview of the Bournemouth game, which comes upon us on Saturday. But there's also other news to kind of have a look at as well in the meantime. But first of all, we'll do the rigmarole first. If you are new to the channel and you're finding us for the first time, please hit that subscribe button. We are well on the way for 28,000 subscribers at the moment. Give us a like, click that thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live or pre-records on. Also, membership's available by clicking the join button. It's kind of a paid subscription, which entitles you through to kind of raffles and things like that with prize givings we do on the channel. And also, super chats too are available. And you get there by clicking the $ below the chat. Good evening to you, Stato.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Fine. Let's do the news first. Let's talk about Dan Ashworth. Are you concerned about him leaving? Is it a bad thing for us, or can we get by?
I think everything can be true. It's bad, but it's also not the end of the world. A lot of people, I think people are being a little bit too, straight and narrow, black or white with the situation. He's not a bad sporting director. There's people just saying, "Oh, well, he's not really done a lot anyway." Well, I mean, that's not true. We can't see a lot of what's been done behind the scenes in terms of connections that have been built up. We have had a lot more promising youngsters join us recently, and Sanusi from Birmingham, and people are a little bit confused of some of the talents we've managed to pick up in terms of the youth setup. Obviously, you've got your Mintes and stuff, and fine. But a lot of people are saying, well, he didn't bring Bruno in, so he didn't bring Isak in. He wasn't here. Well, yeah, that's also true. I think all of these things can be true. I think the main thing to consider is Man United have never made anything easy for us, and I think we should do the same to them. We should make this like pulling teeth. We don't want to play nice. We don't want them anywhere near us in the league table. We want to beat them every single time we play them. We want to be above them every single time, and we want to be winning trophies when they're not. So we need to make this as uncomfortable for them as possible. We need to make sure he can't work, preferably for the next year at least, and just make sure that this is. If it's gonna happen, we need to make sure it's as useful as it can be to us in terms of stifling them, giving us a bit of a financial payoff. We need to get it right. It's a shame. I do think it says something about Dan Ashworth in that he has jumped projects a little bit, because I think there's quite a. I think it's an inevitability with our club as to where we're going. And obviously there has been some drama around, well, how much control does Ashworth actually have? There are rumours that Howe has a lot more control than maybe other managers in the Premier League. But that's maybe because he came in straight away when there was no backroom set up, no technical director, and he had to be involved straight away. Therefore, he's still got a lot more weight. So, strange one. Very, very strange one.
Here's my take on it. I'm disappointed he's going. Obviously, plans have been made with him at the helm to guide us through the next 3 or 4, 5, 10 years, if you like, which are going to have to be ripped up and torn up, and someone else is going to come in who may have different ideas. So for that reason, that may set us back a wee bit. So for one, that's disappointing for me. 2, the loyalty aspect of it. And clearly, he jumped ship for Brighton to come to us. Obviously, it was a massive project, but not even 2 years into this project, he decided to up ship to a toxic club, really, a club that's full of toxicity, an owner that has just come on board who doesn't have the greatest record in sports management. I refer to the Sky cycling team, which he took over, and have hardly done anything since he took over. They were winning, Tour de France's, Le Vueltas, Giros. He took over. Now the prizes are slim pickings that they're getting. Thirdly, I agree with you, the Man United thing. I remember the Jesse Lingard issue when he was out of contract in 6 months. They wanted us to pay £12 million for a 6 months loan when he was out of contract at the end of it. Otherwise, they weren't doing business. So I think we should play hardball with them too. I agree with you 100% on that. Put him on garden leave for at least a year. And if they want to pay for that garden leave to go, then pay for the nose through it. And I want at least £20 million. They want him to work immediately for them, because he'll have had plans first for the summer, which have gone to pot now, and who knows? He may well take players that he wanted for us to go to Man United. So, yeah, play hardball. I want at least £20 million. So, yeah, it's disappointing. And fourthly, whatever it is, there are other people that can do the job. There are other people that are available that can do the job. Michael Edwards his name's been mooted around. There's the guy at Ren, who's done pretty well. And there's also Campos, isn't there? Who's I think he's at Lille, isn't he? So there's a few people around that could do the job. So let's get straight out and get one in. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one. I might get slammed for this, but it's my honest opinion. I think now more than ever, it's the easiest time to date in the history of football for scouting. It's never been okay. Easy is the wrong word because it's not easy. However, it's easier than it ever has been.
Yeah, of course it has.
Today because of all the data that's available.
Yep.
Everything's televised, and obviously the reach that you've got and the money in the top clubs. You can have a lot of scouts. You can have networks. You can have satellites, affiliate clubs, sister clubs. There's a lot of that going around, and I don't. It's not like I've seen a few news articles today suggesting he's got all of these players on a big laptop, and if he walks, he takes that with him. That's not how this works. Like anybody can load up Football Manager, and the data is pulled from real life. Anybody can load up websites. The club themselves have black box data. We're not privy to. Every club does. It's how Brentford recruit. They're very data heavy in terms of their recruitment. It doesn't really matter. I feel like what Ashworth brought you was a better vision, the structure of it. He knew people that he could bring in, scouting wise, and anybody, whether it's an analyst, anybody in that regard. He knows the people he can bring in, the right people. He's an influence. He's a voice. People will want to come and work for him. And off the back of that, he will help guide and create that structure. He's got the connections in probably, I would assume, in the agents world. And the clubs, the academies, that's what he brings as a director. He's got all of that side of it. The actual scouting, I think people are missing the point a little bit. I don't think that's the overall, that's not really it. Obviously it's a part of it, but it's not the entire thing at all. So I think what we will lose is the connections. But I think we're best placed with who we've got as owners to go and get somebody who's kind of similar in profile, who's got connections. We just might not have the same connections. It might be a different flavor. Let's say we get somebody in with a Portuguese background or a South American background. They might have knowledge and contacts in different continents, different countries. We might see a bit of a different sort of smattering, different flavors of player profile, especially in the youth setup. I think we'll be fine. We'll just have to go in a different direction if it happens. It might set us back a little bit of time, though, as you said. I think that is key. That's the only negative. It might kind of halt the project by a year, especially in terms of the youth setup and the back room, how that's all structured. That might have a bit of a wobble, but only short term.
I think that's an excellent point you've made. It's not just about player recruitment, is it? The sporting director's job. Steve Nixon's always been with us. He's been with us for years, and he's still doing the scouting. He's the one that finds these players, really. Okay, he might be guided in certain areas by the sporting director, but Steve Nixon's the one that's going out scouting or staying at home scouting, if you like. So I don't think we'll see much change there. But like you say, the flavour might change. The areas we look in might change. So not too much to kind of worry about, really, I don't think. And we might make a hefty chunk of change out of it, which is also obviously a positive. The other bit of news today is Tom Dixon brings up in his first comment. Callum Wilson will undergo surgery on his pectoral tendon and will be missing for 9-12 weeks. Terrible blow at this precise moment in time, I would say, Stato.
Yeah, it's awful. It's the worst timing ever. I feel like people need to be a bit less harsh to Callum, though, especially on social media. I think less of the glass comments. He's not injured himself. Somebody has injured him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair if somebody hurts you. I never like that. It's like people criticizing Ben Arthur. He got snapped. Like when people get hurt by other players, I'm not going to criticize Callum Wilson for being made of glass. And Julie said it straight away. I'm not going to say that. I feel like that's overly harsh. Look, in that game, if his hamstring's gone ping, his quad's gone ping, his calf's gone ping, I completely agree with you. Fine, it's a liability. However, somebody's broken him. It's a 6'3" centre half who's absolutely wrestled him at the end of the game. It happens. And when you look at the list of injuries and the kind of injuries, to be fair, a lot of that's been going around today as well. When you look at the nature of our injuries, we've had 2 shoulder dislocations, we've had a freak toe accident, we've had 2 back injuries, we've now got a torn pec, which is unheard of in football, as far as I'm aware. So it's not like I remember when we had the conversation about is it Howe's style that's causing it? Well, these are just weird injuries, and there's no kind of training style that gets you a torn pec. It's just nonsense. So, fine. Should we have had more depth? Yeah, but it's really not. I don't think it's Callum's fault. I think that's so harsh, and I think any abuse online is just unwarranted. Because if it was his own fitness and body letting him down, fair enough. It's not. Somebody's hurt him, and I think that has to kind of be factored in, really.
I 100% agree. It's not a muscle tear. It's not a ligament injury. It's a physical. Someone's ripped his tits off, basically, for want of a better word. So it's a big chest injury, a real freak injury. You don't see that in football ever, do you? The chest injuries, muscle and pectoral.
I mean, with a pec tear, it's more of a. It's common in bench presses, weightlifting, powerlifting. Yeah. When there's too much stress there, it's not really common, as far as I'm aware, in anything physical, standing up, like you're not even like rugby's, American footballs, because you're not really doing that kind of movement. So it's strange one.
Let's address this as well. Toon game was confused why we gave Kraft a new contract, as we have 2 right backs. If we're doing this, what does it mean for the summer? As could have done with his wages for new signings. I think Kraft's an excellent re-signing, if you like, because of the fact he covers 2 positions. He's happy to sit on the bench. He's a good professional and play as and when we need him to play. For that reason alone, I think he's worth an extra year. What do you think, Stasso?
I think that confirms that Lascelles is 100% gone.
Yeah.
Because I think he will cover as a fullback / centre-half as an emergency backup. Stealing Football Manager terms there, but it's a fair point. I feel like he's not going to be rotation. Livramento's the rotation player. Kraft would be an emergency player. And then you don't keep 2 emergency players. So that's kind of closed the door on a few others. Maybe not Dummett, but look, we love these guys. Paul Dummett's been amazing for us. He was very important over the years, but there's a limit to how many cheerleaders we can have in the squad. I think for Kraft, that's unfair. He's not a cheerleader. I think he's shown when he's played that he's been more than a cheerleader. He's had quality. He's done well. He's a reliable backup. But yeah, the point is fair also. What are we doing in the summer? Like, I don't know. I mean, if we get the Adidas deal sorted with Ashworth going and we get a big chunk of change, there's sort of 20 million been banded about. I've got no idea what we might end up getting for him, but yeah, it could be a good summer. We just haven't got a sporting director at the helm to lead us into that summer, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
Not that we need one. We didn't have one. We brought Bruno in, did we? Or Dan Byrne and Matt Target that first window. So it's not essential we have one, but I'm with you.
Well, or Isak.
I think he was here for Isak, wasn't he? When did he start his work?
He was still technically on gardening leave.
Was he?
We did the recruitment.
He
was on our list at that point. So
yeah, Paul not here again. Is he also off to another club now? On top of everything else, he's now got having to do a COVID test because he feels really shitty COVID-y type symptoms. So he's having to do a COVID test. So on top of everything else the poor fella's got, he's now got that to worry about too. So that's why he's not here with us tonight. And that kind of clears that up. Noel Powell says, I reckon Ashworth is going because he has not enough say in player recruitment. Let United give us 12 million, the amount they wanted for Lingard, and take a year's sabbatical.
More than that.
Evening to you, Derek and Pete. Evening to Paul S. Sean McEwen, who's been a member for 7 months. Thank you for your ongoing support, mate. Really appreciate that. David Noble says, if Dan Ashworth is leaving, which it looks like he is, I really, really hope we put a massive amount of gardening leave just to mess with manure. I think that's the problem with it mostly, isn't it? It's the Man United issue. If it wasn't anybody else, I don't think anyone would give a shit, really. But the fact it's Man United and the shit they've caused us since we've got our money.
Well, somebody posted it. Was it The Athletic that stated it? Somebody stated it today. Apologies if it's not The Athletic, but somebody stated today that we shouldn't stand in his way if he wants to join that sort of project. Like, with the amount that they've messed us around, Man United, with loan fees, and the fact they beat us in the Carabao Cup final, no, absolutely not. These pundits sit here and praise people like Pep for being ruthless with player sales and recruitment, and they praise clubs for being ruthless, but then we're expected to play nicey-nicey. Absolutely not a chance. I appreciate it's football, but it's also a business, and business is ruthless. Not a chance. Go fish.
Absolutely. So let's get on to the Bournemouth game. It's a big game for us, one we need to win. again, we are short-handed player-wise with injuries and new injuries and suspensions with the Tonali thing. How are you expecting Bournemouth to approach the games? That's how you expect them to come for the win, or you expecting them to low block us and try and get points out of it?
Well, they are struggling in the league at the moment, and they are coming to St James's Park. So it's a tough place for any team to come, as we know. Their recent results in the Premier League, a 3-1 loss to Fulham, a 1-1 draw with Forest, a 1-1 draw with West Ham, a 4-0 loss against Liverpool, and then a 3-0 loss to Bournemouth. So the last time they won was Boxing Day, a 3-0 against Fulham. So they haven't won in the Premier League since Boxing Day. Their only other wins came in the FA Cup against QPR and Swansea, against two Championship sides. So they're in a torrid run of form at the moment. Obviously, the season as a whole, there was a larger chunk sort of pre-Christmas when they were looking a lot more competent. Everything was clicking. They were balanced. They were creative. Solanke was a real problem. That's kind of fallen off a cliff at the moment. So probably one of the best times we could play Bournemouth. Normally when we do these review shows, we kind of look at the opposition and we go, this is the worst time we could play them for us. Whereas with Bournemouth, I feel like this is probably the best time we could play them. They're in a horrible run of form. We've just kind of managed to sort ourselves out a little bit. Our defence is still quite shaky, but we've got points on the board. We're winning games. We're scoring goals. It's probably the best time to actually play this fixture. So I'm feeling a lot more positive about it. In terms of Bournemouth, though, do you want graphics now? Or do you want to
I'll do a super chat first. We've got a £5 super chat from Ian Morgan. He said, not too worried about Ashworth going. He's not the only man in the world who can make a transfer happen. And €2.49 from Conor Mattia. Great servant, but needs to move on. Not reliable. Talking about Callum Wilson, of course. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, let's see some graphics. Let's see what Bournemouth brings to the show, shall we?
I was just looking at the Roma game because Feyenoord are playing against Roma.
Yeah, Minter, yeah.
Right now, and Minter's playing. He's not getting super involved, but again, it's a really good experience for him at a good level. So, right. So the squad, Andoni Iraola, as we know, is the manager. Spent time with him before he joined us. So let's go and have a look at who's likely to play. So obviously,
Darren Randolph is that he's not at West Ham or Middlesbrough. Strange for him, isn't it?
Yeah, he's at Bournemouth. So Max Aarons obviously went there from Norwich. You've got Senesi, Frederick, Smith, Kelly. Obviously, we've talked about Chris Metham. Midfielders in Ryan Christie, Billing, Lewis Cook, Alex Scott, the young lad from Bristol City that they recruited, which was a great pick for Bournemouth, a really good pickup for Bournemouth. I think Tyler Adams is still injured, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he is.
And Billing suspended as well.
Yeah, Billing suspended. Yeah, so big Dom Solanke up front. You've got your Justin Cliver. Oh, I forgot he actually got his work permit because he got declined a work permit at one point, didn't he? I remember that.
At one point, did, yeah.
Semenyo, Sinistera, Roman Favre, who I'm pretty sure he was Bruno's replacement when he left Lyon, I think. Who was? This guy.
Favre.
Well, I'm 90% sure. Favre. I mean, has he played for Favre? I think he was. Was he at Lyon before this? He was, yeah. Yeah, so I think he went to Lyon. I'm pretty sure it was. So yeah, they do have a reasonably good squad on paper, in my opinion. That they've got, when they get their best 11 on the pitch, it's a decent 11. I would say it's mid-table to top 10. And on their day, if they can play sort of exceed their capabilities, they're definitely a real handful and a real problem. In terms of actual team data, this may have dropped off. I mean, Big Dom with 13 goals. I don't know why I'm calling him Big Dom. Dominic Solanke, 13 goals. It is a lot of goals, to be fair. He's not done too bad. But then there is a massive drop-off in terms of goal scorers in the team, with Semenyo and Clive both on 3. So an enormous difference there. And if we go and have a look at the team statistics, are they where they should be? So goals per match, 15th. Conceded per match, 17th. So I think they're about 12th or 13th in the table on 27, 29 points. So FODMOB rating, they're really low, actually. On the 18th, average possession is below average. Clean sheets just below average. XG on 14th. I mean, they're where that you would expect them to be in the table, to be completely honest with you. They're middle of the park for their statistics. Recent games, if we go and have a look. So we'll have a look at the Fulham game, because that is their most recent one. So that was on the 10th. So this is the most recent sort of data set we've got to show you. So they lined up in a 4-2-3-1 most recently. I think that's quite a balanced side. Senesi's the centre half, getting a goal. Lewis Cook next to Ryan Christie. Alex Scott in the 10 with Sinisterra and Marcus Tavernier outside with Solanke up front. I mean, it's not a bad 11, to be fair, but Fulham aren't a bad side either. So probably I'd say they're a similar kind of quality. Alex Scott didn't do particularly well in that game. Average positions for Bournemouth in that game.
Better than Lloyd Kelly, though. Better than Lloyd Kelly looking at the marks.
Well, 6.4, yeah. So average positions ended up looking like, well, what you'd kind of imagine, with Lewis Cook sitting in front of the back four. Ryan Christie's wandered off and joined Tavernier on the right-hand side, the 10 and 16. Alex Scott's kind of favoured supporting Sinisterra on the left.
Yeah.
So it's a very old school, people are playing their positions traditionally. There's no funny stuff like we do tactically. It is very much what you get. But with some technical quality as well. Sinisterra's got a lot of technical ability, so has Alex Scott. So there's smatterings of physicality with smatterings of technical ability, and Solanke gets goals. So you have to pay them some respect. They're not a bad side. There are sides I've said in previews that we should be smashing. This isn't one of them. When they turn up, they're a well put together side. So we've got to make sure we pay them the full respects. We set up tactically the right way. We need to make sure we play with our intensity or energy at home as well.
Yeah. Question from Frederick. He says, "What's guarding league for non-English?" Do you want to explain that to him?
Well, it's where you're just not allowed to join another company in the same industry.
Yeah.
So it would be similar in other business like in other industries in business. You wouldn't be allowed to go and sort of leave and join a competitor within 6. The done thing in contracts is 6 months ish, just so you can't instantly go and sort of give ideas to a different competitor or something. So it's quite a normal thing in business, and it's no different in football.
There you go, Frederick. Perfectly explained there from Stato. Back to the Dan Ashworth thing. Brighton seem to have done okay without Ashworth. They do. But that's different with them. I guess they're getting a lot of South American talent, aren't they? And Tony Bloom's got contacts there, haven't he, with his kind of gambling syndicate stuff.
They've made enough money to set them up for a while. And it would be a shock if they didn't. You would imagine that they would try and continue this model that Ashworth's kind of created, right? Because it's being so good for them profit-wise, and they're doing quite well in the league. Well, they've had a bit of a drop-off recently, but they're still doing well. So even though Ashworth left them, you'd imagine they're still going to hammer this approach because it's done so much for them. It's not like they're just going to drop it and go in a different direction. Like, they know this works.
Alicia has an interesting point. Offer Stato the job. He deserves some money for all of the research he puts into transfer shows.
Oh, thank you. But I have absolutely zero qualifications in football. So,
evening to you, Peter. Hope you're well. It's a paid holiday, as Jeffrey says. Okay, that's Bournemouth. How about Newcastle? How are we expecting us to line up?
Well, we've got the tactics board. Do we have a lineup from FOTMob? No, they don't. They haven't given us a lineup. So FOTMob. So who is it? Michael Salisbury is the referee.
Great.
They're expecting. So Max Aaron's injured till late Feb. James Hill till late Feb. Ryan Fredericks and Randolph, you would assume, when it says a few days, and Tyler Adams.
Did you say James Hill?
That's his name, isn't it?
Jimmy.
It says James Hill.
Jimmy's short for James, isn't it?
And then Philip Billing suspended. And us. Well, there are rumours that Willock and Anderson are very close.
Yep.
So, I mean, who have we got? That's still a massive list, considering the general consensus is that everyone's starting to come back now. That's an enormous injury list. And I tell you what, all I've seen in the last few days, I don't know about everyone. all I'm reading is boo hoo, Aston Villa have injuries. Excuse me, can somebody remind them how many we still have injured?
Well, that's
It's
9 there.
absolutely ridiculous.
And all first teamers as well, aren't they? Every
5,
single one
6,
of them.
7, 8. 8 injured plus Tonali suspension. That's 9 out still.
And all
and who
first teamers.
are they? All first teamers? I guess they are, aren't they? Yeah.
I get maybe Target's a
Arguably
expert.
Target, but I mean, yeah, pretty much all first teamers.
Yeah, it's horrific, isn't it? We'll still keep getting through it though, I guess. So yeah, let's have a look, see what we can do with this side. Then we've got no Wilson, so we can take him away.
All right. So sorry, Wilson, you can go over there into this mess, this pile of players. So you'd imagine the back four would be unchanged, right?
I think it'll all be unchanged except for the Gordon in centre forward and Barnes at left side, I guess.
I can't imagine the midfield needing any changes. Well, not that. I mean, if Joe Linton was available, he's not. So you're looking at maybe. Let's move Billing and Kelly over there. That was for another show. So Livramento, is Willock going to be back on the bench? Maybe, maybe not. Do we reckon Isak's going to be back on the bench?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
But you never know. You never know.
So you've got Anderson, Willock, and Isak that are all kind of, we don't really know if they're close enough to be on the bench or not. So Trills is saying Isak is said to maybe be ready. So we might see Isak floating around on the bench. I'll put him on the bench anyway. Probably not best to play him and break him again because we need some strikers. So the front three is what? I mean, we've just got to put Gordon up front. And then Barnes. Do we have a Barnes? Well, we do, but he's in white. So sorry, Barnes, you're gonna have to be in white. I mean, it's that, isn't it? And then maybe Murphy will do something. Where's Murphy? Alex Murphy.
Well, Murphy's injured as well, according to Alex Murphy, not Jacob. Yeah, that's it
Jacob?
to me.
There he is.
And Jacob's potentially injured as well, according to that list you showed a minute ago.
Is he?
Yeah, he's doubtful, according to that. Look, fourth or bottom there.
Thigh injury. Oh, that was because obviously he struggled in the warm-up, didn't he? Yeah. So you've maybe got, I mean, players that could be in contention for this game are these five. I think Anderson and Willock are a massive outside shout. Isak is probably a little bit closer, and then these two are a little bit more definite to be on the bench. I would say Murphy would be on the bench. I'd be surprised if he isn't. And yeah, there's not really much else we can do. Of course, Hall will be on the bench and your Richies and that lot. But I mean, what anybody got any ideas? I mean, I'm bored of putting five at the back because he's never going to do that. I mean, obviously, if we try our funny shape and build up again, I mean, what did we do? We tried. So last time we had about 25 minutes to 30 minutes of this. This is what we did on the ball. It was, well, it wasn't. Ignore the personnel because Gordon started left, didn't he? So we kind of did a bit of. We did kind of that on the ball to a point. That was kind of what some of our build-up looked like. And then they were, Longstaff was hugging the touchline, which was really interesting. I don't know if we'll try this again, but that was insane. I tell you what, the Mighty Winds just reminded me. Did you see somebody called up TalkSport, or was it TalkSport or someone else, and suggested that we should try and play Lascelles in midfield and turn him into another Joe Linton?
No, it was Radio Newcastle, wasn't it?
That was it. That's hilarious. I mean, fair enough for being brave enough to suggest it, but I mean, Joe Linton, we could see that Joe Linton had technical ability. He was just really inconsistent, whereas Lascelles just doesn't have. He's never had that. Not to be a forward player.
Do you think he'll do that back three at home? Or I'm not sure he will. I don't think he will try it at home. But
this is only on the ball. This is not a formation. This is purely as we start to build out the shape that we kind of slot into. Because it's what happened last time. Trippier sort of wandered into here and received the ball. It was Miley that dropped and tucked in next to him. So this is what it looked like for periods of time.
But without the ball, Longstaff was sitting next to Miley and Trippier was back in his right back position.
It kind of dropped back to that with Bruno floating a bit. So it was Bruno, and then it was. It was interesting. So it'll be something like that. I don't know if we're going to. I don't see why we wouldn't try the same shape and build up, because it's clearly something we've been working on and we want to do. It's not really the kind of thing you practice for a one-off. It's something you practice because you want to try and implement it. So I would imagine we try it again. I'd be surprised if we don't, especially at home against a team sort of bottom half of the table. If you're not going to try it then, when are you going to try it?
And Stephen says Anderson has trained with the group all week. I would put him on for Miggy's second half, move Gordon back to front left. If Anderson's trained all week, then I guess he could be in the chance for starting, I guess.
I don't think I've ever seen Anderson play on the right.
No, but he could slot in at that left-hand side, can't he? Midfield, can't he? Although not as an anchor. I think you'd have to put Bruno back there then. And then you'd have to put Anderson further forward.
We have been subbing Miley off into the latter stages of games, but the change has been for Livramento. So maybe the change this time could be Anderson for Miley straight swap and end up looking like that. But then who comes off for Livramento? Or maybe he just doesn't make that change.
Yeah. I mean, Barnes may not get 90 minutes either, so I guess Livramento could slot in there, or dare I say Lewis Hall.
But that's where you're hoping Murphy's available and fit.
Yeah.
So Murphy's your wing change. I definitely think Anderson is. I think in their minds he's a midfielder. He's not going to be out here very often. I think he's a midfielder in their heads. I think he's maybe a winger if you bring him on late. He can do these things, but I think generally they'll play him here.
Yeah,
I think that's the thinking anyway. But then what do you do shape-wise? Because obviously if Lewis Miley starts here and drops back next to Trippier, Anderson's not going to be able to do that.
No.
Well, unless they've been training for it.
That's why Bruno would have to play that in that role, wouldn't he? But we'll see. This is a good point from the Trolls, actually. Miggy should be on the bench. He, for some reason, can't pass the ball anymore too hard or too loose. I don't think Almond should play anyway, but if Murphy's injured, he's got to, hasn't he?
I think Miggy's should be dropped right now. I think he's struggling.
Yeah, Murphy was fit. I think it could go to start, but he's not.
Miggy played himself into a little bit of form for 2 to 3 matches after the Sunderland game. Well, during the Sunderland game, and then a little bit after that, and it's kind of died a death a little bit. I think if Murphy's fully fit, play Murphy, definitely. But I don't think that will happen. I think he'll start Miggy because he always starts Miggy. So
yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have. But if hopefully Murphy will be fit and then he can start. Because I think after last week's performance, Almond deserves to be dropped. But yeah, we shall see what happens there. Yeah. So what are the defenders obviously going to stay the same. Dubravka probably going to stay the same. Bruno and Longstaff are both going to definitely play. Probably Miley as well, with Anderson coming off the bench. You'd think. Barnes, Gordon, and Almond. I guess that's all we can pick with all the people got out. It's horrible to say, but that's all we've got, isn't it? Really?
Well, when your injury list looks like that,
yeah.
What else are you going to do?
And if you look at Bournemouth's list, Darren Randolph's like third choice goalkeeper. I've never heard of Jimmy Hill. Max Owens obviously is a loss for them. Frederick seem to have a lot of fullback injuries, don't they?
Ours is basically the entire spine of the squad. We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4 first team midfielders, both of our 9s. It's just ridiculous. 4 first team midfielders, both of our 9s, a winger, a fullback, goalkeeper, and our number 1 goalkeeper. You couldn't write it. It's basically everyone we need.
Unbelievable. Absolutely madness. Unbelievable.
Oh, Alfie Harrison, that's a fair shout. I mean, you never know. He might make the bench. It depends. It depends why we've brought him in. If we brought him in with the intentions of putting him straight in the development squad, or is he going to go? I mean, if Travis Hearns is making the bench, why would Harrison not be making the bench?
The thing with Miggy is, though, he can have a shitter, then go out and be immense. I guess. But he's been poor for a while, hasn't he, really? Derek says Miggy was poor, but always plays better, and Murphy's breathing down his neck. Well, if Murphy's not fit, he won't be breathing down his neck, will he? But then again, if he's not fit, there's no choice anyway. So, why are people saying Shaw up front?
Because he scored 3 and 3, that's why.
Yeah. Matty says, I don't think we can afford Hall, so I'm purposely not playing him so the obligation doesn't come into play. What obligation? What obligation is this, Matty? Are you aware of an obligation?
Well, I thought it was an obligation. I think it's an obligation.
They kind of said that, and then they said at the end of the press conference that the obligation had already been filled and he's definitely signing. So I think Hall will definitely be a Newcastle player.
Yeah, I think it's
full-time
done
next year.
I don't think we have a choice as to how much he plays or not. I think it's already a done deal and we can't get out of it. I'd see Hearns given some minutes. I've got nothing to say on that because I've never seen him play. So where is White? Oh, yeah, Joe White. I mean, fair enough. Joe White probably deserves to be around. Where is he? Did we get rid of him? We did get rid of him.
Kraft.
Sorry, Joe.
Kraft,
White,
of course.
Kraft, of course. White, number 30. Let's pop you on the bench. And Kraft as well. What number's Kraft?
Is he 17?
Oh, that's a great shout. It is indeed. I think that's a good pub quiz question for the football fans, isn't it? What numbers for Emil Kraft?
So Dylan saying Anthony Willett could be fit and targets an outside shout. Christ, that pushed Lewis all even further down the pecking order. Derek says share his DM. Where's Craffy?
Yeah, put him on. Somebody said, "Where's Fraser?" No. I mean, he exists here because of the show we did last week, but I'm not putting Ryan Fraser anywhere near our team.
I think the whole transfer saga has affected Miggy, but he was shit before that, Jackie. It's not just the case of the transfer window. He's been dire for months, really. We need goals and assists from Miggy's position. Love him, but he's not producing anything right now. I agree with that 100%.
Well, I mean, Murphy is, to be fair. If we go to FB, Raf, Murphy is 1 goal, 3 assists for the season. And you've got to remember, I think there's been a couple of situations where teams have scored own goals that were really kind of his, to be fair. So that's a bit unfair.
7 matches played as well. They're not all starts, are they?
Plus no, 7 appearances, and it's more than this because there's been own goals scored off the back of what he's done. So, but you don't really get credited for that. So, I mean, that's really, really impressive. Oh God, it's nearly his birthday. Oh, there you go. See, heads up. Jacob's birthday in a week.
And how old will he be? 28, 27?
He will be 29.
29.
So Miggy's 30 and Murphy next week will be 29.
Yeah.
So both of them getting on.
You still think of him as a youngster, don't you? He's been here for that long. He's got a nice set of green bars there, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's doing well. But, I mean, he's contracted until 2027, so I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon unless we get a decent offer for him. But I kind of like him. I think he's good enough and he's versatile and he does a job. Murphy's the kind of player that I wouldn't mind keeping for another couple of years. You need players like that in your squad. When he profiles like some look at who he profiles like. I've not even seen this before. And Buemo, Alanga, Rafael Leao. He's got Kubo on there, Son, Saka,
Rafinha.
Very impressive.
Berardi, good players.
Well done, Jacob. Good effort. Oh yeah, I forgot he was at Coventry for a year.
On loan, yeah.
Yeah, it was well before us. He's had a good long career. He's been going 10 years at professional level. So what are we going to do then? Is it going to be this?
I don't see how it could be anything else, to be honest. I don't think the team picks itself again. I mean, it's the easiest job in the world to manage Newcastle United at the minute, selection was anyway. Because there's no choice. There's nobody else can literally play.
I think the only contentious ones is Livramento getting in the starting lineup. And I guess that's it. I guess if Isak's fit enough to start, he starts. But yeah, you don't really bring a returning Anderson and Willock into a starting lineup. That'd be asking for trouble.
They haven't played for months, have they? So no, definitely not.
Joe White's never played for us, really. So, I mean, he's not going to start. Kraft isn't going to start. Hall isn't going to start. I mean, yeah, probably these two. Murphy and Livramento, unless Isak makes a miraculous recovery. These are the only two that are kind of, you could say, might get a start.
Anyway, we do have a resident Bournemouth fan here, and he says, I think so. Mark Singleton, of course, is a Bournemouth supporter. Jimmy Hill bought from Fleetwood and to Scotland on loan and half season at Blackburn and now injured. There you go. Amal Mohammed says the previous match Bruno plays the playmaker Cam, not as we know him as CDM. Yeah, but that might change depending on how he plays. I mean, he could have that same role again. It's possible. Especially with Gordon, he'd be able to hit channels for Gordon to run through, and that's if Gordon's fit, of course, because he had a nickel last week, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he was in a boot, wasn't he? So,
yeah, it's been a year since Christian Atsu sadly passed away. So, thoughts with his family on the anniversary of his death. Of course, we reciprocate and echo that 100%. Really sad day, sad times for Newcastle United and, of course, for Christian Atsu's family. So, we will send our sympathies his family's way and friends' way. Hall has to play by June or release his buy contract, and I don't know much whether that's true or not. Newcastle will beat Bournemouth, says Maxi.
Fingers crossed.
You missed the best keepers, says the corner phrase. I'm not sure what that means. Harrison was bought as a longer-term investment in under-23s, then probably sold on in a few years for better FB. That's something I want to talk about before we do the scores. Chris Rigg back on the wavelength again, isn't he? He's looks like he could be coming in the summer.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a Newcastle fan, so is his dad. Everybody knows it. I think this was always going to happen. It was always on the cards. It might not happen, but I think it's more likely that it does. And good for us. Yeah, they can nurture the youngsters and make sure they do well, and then we'll take them off them. Why not?
I think it's a great idea. He's a hell of a player by all accounts, and scored already for the first team, even though he was 16 at the time. So he's obviously got a lot of potential and a good signing for the future again. But yeah, let's get the score predictions in the chat, folks, for the Bournemouth game. We're going to do ours soon. Until then, we'll do a few comments. The DOF doesn't get fired because Newcastle are doing better than Man United, says Newcastle United Clips. Bruno, get a yellow, get it off your back. Well, I think we want him for the Arsenal game, don't we? I don't think we dare go into a game against Arsenal with Miley, Longstaff, and no flair player in there.
Considering what they've just done to West Ham, we can't go into that game with no Bruno.
100%. Mary says, who's getting booked first? Who knows? As long as it ain't Bruno, who cares? You could argue Murphy starts, and then if he feels his calf tight and sub him for Miggy, nightmare losing Murphy straight after being subbed on. Yeah, that's a fair point. Darren's going Saturday and he's never seen us lose. Wish he could get to more matches. Well, that's a good sign. A bit like Stato's record.
Well, no. We lost the final. I was at the final.
That's St James's.
Well, no, I've never seen us lose. I've never seen us lose at home. I've never seen us lose. Well, technically away, apart from at Wembley. It's just the Wembley. So in a Premier League fixture or anything like that, I've never seen us lose.
Anyway, the score predictions starting to come in. Pete says 3-1. Ash says 2-1. Jackie says 2-1. Ian says 3-1. Darren says 3-1. Mick says 2-1, sorry. Bath says 2-0. Harvey Barnes and Share with the goals. Paul Mann says 2-0. Bournemouth not winning 5-0, but a 2 win 4-1. So Stephen. Letters B says 4-2. Quinn says 3-0, Harvey 2 and Botman. So Fiat says 3-0. Wherever you are on Facebook, 2-0. Thank you for that prediction. Ian Fleming says 3-0. 5-0 says Bruv Butler. 3-1 says Andy. Again, very confident as always. 3-2 says Andrew. Judy J says 1-0. I Like Coffee says 2-0 goals from Barnes and Murfinho. Carl says 3-0, Bruno 2 and Share 1. That sounds like last Saturday's scorers. Adnan says, I know, and we will shite second half. It will be tricky tomorrow. If we lose, it doesn't surprise him. Paul says 4-0. We'll keep the positivity from recent weeks' results and play some positive football. Kendo says 8-0. It's an overdue reckoning. Derek is very, very practical and sensible. You could take a 1-0 now. Bruno's playing better because he's determined not to get a stupid booking, potentially. 3-1 for us, Bruno, Longstaff and Miley, says Lee. Peter says 3-1, a Share hat-trick. Mark says, do we keep Wilson in the summer because he and Isaac have the equivalent of one striker's playing time and then sign another as the backup? It's not like you'd get a lot for Wilson anyway. We spoke about this to the show, didn't we?
Yeah, that's not true. I think we could get 15 for Wilson, and 15 would translate into a reasonable amount when you put it back into purchases. And he'd be on reasonable wages as well. It depends if we keep him. It'd be on the final year of his contract, but I think we could demand a reasonable fee. You know, we got 15 for Wood. We can get 15 for Wilson. Come on.
Ant says this isn't a prediction; it's a definite 3-1. This is the first negative one, and this is a draw from Looney Toon 2-2. Wacky Angler says Toon will have a proper look at their needs according to their finishing place in the league. It could just adjust their targets. Matty says 3-2 either way. Stevie B says 4-0. John Green says 4-2. Trolls, and this is a good point as well. We need to avenge the loss away. Toon Army assemble. Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of revenge in what happened down at Bournemouth because we were very poor down there, weren't we?
Yeah, it definitely needs to happen. We need a win for this one. We need
4-3, says Andrew. Yeah, no, says Miggy Brace, 4-0. 2-1 to corner phrase, 4-2, says Dylan. And 4-0. Nort says, I'm never wrong when I predict 4-0. Well, Kendo says he can't see anything less than 6 points. Tony says 3-0. Premier League Rich says 1-0 to Toon. Barnes double for Dort's Mag in a 2-1 victory. Tom thinks 8-all. Want a piece this and that. Longest top 7 do poor. Mark thinks 2-2. Kendo thinks Mad Dog should play up front. Rabbit in on says Barnes and Botman 2-0. Paul Tully says, to be fair, I predicted we'd score 4 v Luton, just never saw Luton scoring 4. Let's hope we see no repeat. Mary says 4-0. Toontown Deck. If it's anything like the Forest game, we're going for 5-4 to the Toon. David says it would be great to win both halves and keep a clean sheet. I agree with that. A clean sheet, I think it's a really important thing to get a clean sheet, actually. Get a bit of confidence before we go down to the Emirates there. 3-2 to us says Baz. 2-2 says Adnan. 3-2 says Wacky Angler. Lawrence talking about Wilson says, I'd look to get rid of him in the summer with his contract up next year. Sure, bottom half would take him for experience. I tend to agree with that. I said Wilson 2, but with Bruno with 2 says Bath. 4-2, Share, Hattrick and Barnes. Said it last week, Share scored. Is it possible to make Kraft play as a CDM and putting Bruno and Longstaff in front of him?
Anything's possible. Doesn't mean you should do it.
This is true. Lawrence says going for someone like Sesko or David, contract at Lille up next year.
Oh, he was so good the other night. I don't know if anybody watched the Leipzig game in the Champions League. He's just a monster. He's an absolute monster.
Did he have a goal that's allowed?
Well, I can't remember, but I saw sort of his attempted overhead kick and just some of what he does, and you can just see he's going to be an absolute handful for the next decade. He's just such a talent.
3-1 says Sergi. Up the Mags says Misty. 4-2 says Matty, Burn and Trips. Now that sounds like he's kind of saying that we're going to lose 4-2 because he's only named 2 scorers, which ain't great. At home, points are a must. I agree. We've got to start addressing our home form again now. I heard we'll get a bundle for Ashworth going. That seems like to be the way. 4-3-2. We've forgotten how to defend. We'll take any win. And Andy Quality says, not a lot of clean sheet predictions. This is true, there isn't, is there? Confident to get the winters. Lawrence, what do you think, Sasso? What's your head taking you?
Well, we do also have Paul in the chat, by the way. So, I mean, you're just about to get to it if you keep going.
Next. Oh, yes, so he is. And Paul says, please hit those likes for Alex and Billy doing a superb job. Thank you, Paul. You get yourself well, mate. Hope you get well soon.
So, I'm going to predict best case scenario. I'm going to say we'll keep a clean sheet because I think it's something we'll have been working on and we'll be trying it. It doesn't mean we will. I know we've been struggling, but I'm going to be optimistic and say that we're trying to sort that out and we'll try and hopefully keep a clean sheet. I'd say we're good for at least a couple of goals. I think Barnes will get back on the score sheet. I think he looks good for it. And I'm going to go for another cheeky Bruno goal with a bit more freedom for him. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win.
2-0. Scorers?
Barnes and Bruno.
Barnes and Bruno. I think we'll win as well, but I think we will concede. So I think 3-1. And I think the goal scorers will be Gordon. I think he'll get one. I think Miggy may get one. I think Barnes will score. So 3-1 for me.
I think Miggy's going to get one as well.
Yeah, I just fancy Miggy for a goal for once. For fuck's sake, Willie, you're going to read out every comment. Well, I'm trying to fill time maps, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, Paul's copying me, so... Oh no, that's Jan's. Where's Paul gone? There he is. Paul thinks 2-0 as well.
Jan's
Who are the
copying
scorers
me.
though?
Jan's copying me and Paul's copying you. Yeah, interesting. Christine says 5-3. Miley, Barnes 2, Bruno and Trips. That's an interesting scoreline. 5-3. Very interesting.
I don't think it'll be that high. Well, although with recent results, you never know, do you?
You don't never know, no. You never do.
Paul thinks Miggy's going to get 2. Okay. He's been on the old Cocodamol, I see.
Diazepam by the sound of it. I haven't said that. I did say he'd scored, didn't I? So I can hardly say that. David R says Bournemouth will create loads of chances against us. Well, you're going back to what Bournemouth looked like when we played them at their place, but they're in no kind of form at all, are they? And they've got injuries as well. They missed Billing. He's suspended. So, yeah, interesting. Well, it looks like
we've not been
show.
dominating games as much, have we?
Have we kind of have we spoke about everything? I mean, we seem to be kind of at the
yeah.
end of the
show. We've gone over what I mean. Atsu, R.I.P.
Yeah,
lovely stuff from the club about that.
Yeah,
Ashworth, and then the Bournemouth game. A couple of transfer links. Minte's obviously playing. Oh yeah. Before we go, how is that game going? I mean, we can always have a quick look, can't we?
Yeah.
See how he's getting on. How is the Feyenoord game going? I think it's finished. Did they win? Oh, it was 1-1. Roma actually equalised. That's a shame. Oh, Lukaku scored in the 67th minute. Boo. Minter, a 6.8 on FOTMob, and he got booked. Yeah. A couple of shots at goal. Created one chance. 4 touches in the opposition box. I mean, it looks like he did all right, to be fair. Quite a little bit of defensive work from him. 6 defensive actions, 3 ball recoveries, 2 interceptions. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really good experience for him, being that young. I think he's 19 now. I think he's ticked over into being 19 years old. He's had his birthday. And against, on his side, you've got Zalewski, Pellegrini and Spinazzola, Mourinho, Serie A team. So nothing to be sniffed at. He's learning his trade and he's doing okay. So might not have scored or lit up the game, but it's very important for his development.
Excellent. So we've covered everything and we've done it all in 53 minutes. So how good are we? We're coming to the end of the show. There's nothing else we can talk about, really. We will be back on Saturday for the live match day live, of course, Bournemouth. 2:30 start. We'll go through the teams and then go into the commentary. So join us for that because it's always a good show on the live match days. But until then, I guess it's just a case of us to say good night. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to you lot watching. Thanks to the super chatters. But until then, until we'll see you Saturday, have a great rest of your Thursday and Friday also. So good night, everyone.
Away the lads and lasses.
Come back and check on some green.